And Clodagh, such a pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Very good to be meeting you as well.
thank
You're
you.
absolutely fantastic in this. Just looking a bit into you, I can see that you're really passionate about music, in particular one of your many hobbies. Just so curious to know, have you made any music inspired by this movie, and what were you listening to when you were on set?
Oh, that's such a great question. I mean, it was a long time ago when I made this movie,
Okay.
and what I tend to do is shift gears when I'm playing a character. So if it's incongruous to my work, I shut out a lot of contemporary music. So I'm sure I was doing that on this.
Some 1940s.
Yeah, I
maybe,
did listen
yeah.
to. I mean, I know probably listened to a lot of Al Bowley or things of that era, kind of sweetness and a formality and a kind of gentleness of another time. And definitely, there's really beautiful Hungarian folk music that my mother cherishes. That reminds her of her parents and of that other time. And I've listened to some of that. I've also spent a lot of time listening to the dialect of people from that era. So I didn't really have much time to listen to music. I was spending a lot of my energy absorbing the distinct qualities in the dialect, and it's a very specific accent.
I would for sure listen to a playlist that you would make of all that Hungarian folk
It would be
music.
great. It is lovely music.
It's so touching how close this is to you personally, and your mother being a Hungarian immigrant to America. Has making this movie kind of made you look at her story any differently? Is there anything you might have learnt about her? Or
It's made it even more intimate to me. Just this morning, my mother wrote me a lovely letter about remembering my grandmother's sacrifices. I often speak about my grandfather and how these similarities of what I was yearning to honor him, of what I recalled. But my grandmother spoke 5 or 6 languages, and because she was able to decipher all the myriad paperwork and complications of their passage through Vienna, being refugees, and ultimately gaining permission to come to the United States, that was because of her ability to read in English and to get work and support them. There's a lot of loss and hardship, but a lot of hopefulness, and it's led to quite a beautiful life. My mother is a very esteemed photographer and very well respected by many, and has been a guiding light in my career. But it's only brought me closer to my parents, both my parents. They're very moved by
she's
this.
so proud.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for speaking with me, and best of luck. Well, thank you so much for speaking with me. I'm Clodagh. Huge congratulations on this film.
Oh, thank
Your character
you.
had me crying and smiling, and she was just amazing. How was it particularly getting into the accent for you? What was kind of the references there?
Well, it was a huge challenge.
Yeah.
It was a little bit intimidating at first, suddenly reading, oh my gosh, I've got to learn Hungarian and I've got to speak in a Hungarian accent. So I just quickly got to my desk and got practicing. And
Duolingo, was it?
Yeah, exactly. Listening to anything I could. I had a great reference, actually, of a Hungarian woman who had a similar experience to Erzsébet. And so I listened to that endlessly on my earphones, and I was on this film actually 2 years before we actually shot, so I had lots of time to kind of mentally prepare myself.
Was there any kind of like phrase that got you into the accent or the language?
Well, kusunum is thank you, and that was
oh,
always
that's a lovely
kusunum.
one.
Yeah. So it's always a useful one to have as well.
Yeah, exactly, for visiting. You're also in a wheelchair for most of this. How
Yes.
was that, kind of practicing in the chair and everything?
Well, Erzsébet is suffering from malnutrition from the war, so when we meet her, she is very physically weak, and we see throughout the second half her health actually improving. But it was actually, again, it was fascinating to understand how to show that, how to convey that on screen, how to show that progression. A lot of my preparation was in understanding her movements and then gradually shifting those movements depending on how her health was doing.
I've been told to wrap up, but congratulations on the BAFTA as well.
Thank you very
and best of
much.
luck.
It's so good.
Yeah,
It was good news.
Your look in this is amazing. It's quite camp almost, with like the heavy eyeliner and like the blush. What was it like putting that on every day?
I just think those details show you who a person is, but they also, as an actor, it comes from the inside, so they make you feel like that person. I loved every ring I wore.
Was it a wig?
Yeah, beautiful haired team that has worked with these Italian brothers actually, who are such geniuses and have worked with Ridley a bunch of times. So it was really fun to build that.
You're not tempted to dye it?
Maybe. You have a great shade of red.
Yeah.
We looked at like every color, every shade of red until we found the right one for the hair.
It's the main man himself, it's Paul Mescal. Great to see you, Paul. But listen, I was talking to the two guys about the time you had together in Austin. How valuable was that to you? And did you at all use sport to get in the mindset of a gladiator? Build up to this?
Yeah, I played a lot of Gaelic football growing up, but also like to be in the paddock for Austin, like I hope I surprised the boys with a little bit of my knowledge for it. I was asking them hopefully nerdy questions. But yeah, like in any context with any sport, I love to kind of get a peek behind the curtain, and these two are some of the best in the game, so yeah, it was pretty special.
I mean, you are a proper follower of F1. How up to date are you? I mean,
right up to date. Right up to date.
I remember you guys had to interrupt us because we have so many free questions to ask each other.
I was asking them for their setups for a start, and they wouldn't tell me.
We were asking how many people you have in such a big production, such a big film. Like we were having all of these conversations, and you guys kept interrupting us.
Yeah, very rude.
Family fan always, or what's your F1 interest? Is it across the board? Are you always
it's across the board, but I'm with the two boys, so we're Team Scuderia. I'm going to be there at in Las Vegas, so I'm incredibly excited for that race.
What does it feel like getting signed on to a Ridley Scott movie?
I couldn't believe it was happening, really. I felt very grateful. It's weird, being an actor, you know, you spend a lot of time not acting.
Yeah.
But I've been very lucky in the periods when I have been acting to work with people like Tim Burton and Sir Ridley Scott and Paul King. So, I loved every minute of it. It was very, very, very hot when we filmed. But what I had to go through was nothing compared to what Paul and Pedro and all the other gladiators had to go through, and also the crew as well. It was quite tough out there in Malta, but the results are amazing, and I'm so proud to be a small part of it.
And Ridley's obviously a genius, and his feedback comes thick and fast, and it's always welcome, I'm sure. What was the best bit of feedback that he gave you?
More, just do more, bigger and louder.
And just lastly, is there anything that the Romans used to do that you think we should bring back?
Yeah, I think they used to eat mice. Let's go back to that.
Huge congrats on this. I absolutely loved it. It was so beautiful.
Thanks.
Jesse was obviously so personal to you, and I read that you went on a 2-week trip to Poland, and that like influenced the whole story.
Yeah.
How does it feel now to kind of have it out in the world? And has your family given you like any feedback on what they think?
Yeah, my family was really touched. My dad grew up never hearing from his parents about what happened to his family during the war because, my dad was born in the 50s and there was so much survivor's guilt because the war had just ended, and so no one talked about it. So it was really me as a third generation American, like curious about my family's history, that really started to delve into what occurred there. So for my dad, in some ways, like even though it's about his family, who he's much closer to the generations that we're discussing than I am, for him it was like he learned a lot about what had happened to our family.
Wow, that must have been quite touching for him to see that.
Yeah, I think he really was. That was not my intention. My intention was not to like tell this personal thing to kind of dig into my family's history, but the byproduct of actually just doing it and doing it there. And we filmed at the house my family lived in Poland. So, it was, for my family, it was a nice, kind of sweet full circle.
To have that on film forever as well is
Yeah.
quite lovely.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's also so many layers to this. There's the backdrop. There's also like your guys' characters, and they're so different. And I've been watching a lot of interviews, and you guys seem quite different as people as well.
Yeah.
How was that as like a working relationship? Like obviously really worked very well. And is there a particular trait in the other that you learned to really love?
Yeah, I'm trying. Well,
That'll be tough for you.
that is a tough one. Yeah, I don't know how to answer things like that sincerely, but I remember on set, he was really nervous about, surprisingly, shocked. He was really nervous about like a scene because he was worried that maybe I was not prepared for it or something like that. And I was like, it'll be fine. We'll just do it. I just have no anxiety about the thing. Like, we'll just go in there and make it. It's fine. And he was so, do you want to look at the pages? I was like, I got the pages. Don't worry. And he was walking away. I was like in my trailer, just like kind of getting ready. And he came back and goes, yeah. He said, did you think when we started this that you and I would be alike? I went, no, God, no.
Yeah.
Why did you? And he went, I did. I really did.
Yeah.
Why
He walked
did you
away
think
scratching his
that?
head. Yeah.
I don't know. He's from New York, and he, he's an actor.
Both actors, same age.
Actor.
Yeah.
We speak a similar way. I don't know. I guess I just thought we're gonna have the exact same interests and outlook on the world, and no, it turns out very different.
Quite different.
I just also assume everybody in the world thinks like me. I mean, this is how most people think, because you assume like the way you think is like the kind of baseline norm.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I was really thrown off.
Yeah, because you like learnt your lines on the way to set. Am I right?
Yeah, because it's like I saw it. Even if I read it a year ago, I'm like, it makes sense. I have no notes. I just want to go in there and do it. So and also the nature of the character is he's very unpredictable and spontaneous. So I sort of figured like I shouldn't prepare it. I didn't want to say the words out loud until we were there. I happen to learn lines really fast, so I'll just learn it on the way to set, which would make the writer director very anxious.
Yeah, of course.
Because what if I'm not ready?
Exactly.
I can
We have
imagine you would
only
have
an
been-
hour to shoot this thing, so.
Yeah, you must have been very good at exams, like photographic memory.
No, terrible in school, but I could memorize and then forget it. Like, it's not like I could do that scene later that day. It's gone.
He'll memorize a scene in like 2 minutes, like a long scene with complicated words and complicated monologues, and then the next day have no recollection of what he did. I don't know.
Yeah.
You have some like temporary memory bank. That's
Or not even after the take, you would ask me to do that again. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, you did this thing, and I was like, I
Didn't know.
no self-awareness. I have no idea what I just did. Yeah,
Did I just do that?
And you would ask me you would tell me what it was, and well, now I can't do it.
Yeah, of course, of course.
I was
Yeah,
like, well,
exactly.
you use it. You use what you got.
Yeah, exactly.
If you got
It
it.
was
We didn't
amazing.
get it.
Yeah.
Do I have to wrap?
Ah.
Oh, what a
Whoa.
shame.
That was intense.
Time
It's
too
flies,
fast, I know.
guys. Thank you very much. I'm Clodagh. Really nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you. Love your
Congrat-
outfit.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, good.
Huge congratulations on this movie. You succeeded in terrifying the shit out of me, so well done.
Win.
Have you guys watched it back, just so I know for...
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually seen it twice.
Me too.
Which is probably 2 times more than I normally see of other films. So.
Okay, it
And
says good things then.
I'm loving it. I actually got so much more from the second watch.
Oh, it's true.
It's-
Me
yeah,
too.
I
Me
really
too.
did.
Did the
There
jump scares scare you in the same ways that they did the first time?
No. Yes.
No, they did. Yeah,
They
it was
did?
good.
They still
No,
got
not
you?
the second time, but the first time.
Yeah.
Because you don't feel a jump scare when you're shooting it at all. It's
Yes, of course, absolutely,
Like,
yeah.
it's so sober to it.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so the first time I watched it, I was like jumping all over the place. But
Yeah, there's truly no relaxing in this movie.
Its desire is to consume all life on Earth. Only you can redeem us. He is coming.
I guess for you guys, what I'd love to know is like, it's so scary to watch, but what was it like on set? Like, I know Bill was kind of talking about like, he kind of felt like there was almost like a dark energy at some points. Was that the same for you guys?
I do think
I don't think that as much as it was a serious set in the sense of you're in period clothes, you're in a period world. There is a seriousness, but it also comes from the fact that we've got these very designed shots, very long takes, and we all have to cooperate with each other, and everybody's beyond their game. And we're wearing period clothes.
Yeah.
Those things take a lot of fussing, you
And
know.
you can't hang
hairs.
around. You can't
Yeah,
lounge about
it's
on a
like,
chair and your phone or whatever.
you know, so everybody's always ready, and you got to respect everyone. Also, you have like Bill getting in this long makeup. Not that we interacted with him that much, didn't have
I think
that
they
many
tried to
scenes
keep
with him.
us separate.
Yeah,
didn't they?
Oh, really?
Just kind of respect. And then Lily has some real heavy lifting emotionally and physically, so you don't want to be joking around if she needs that kind of calm space. But I think mostly it was serious because of these difficult long takes.
Yeah.
But everybody was down, and
Yeah. Everyone was lovely.
Speaking of difficult takes, I did read that there was 5,000 rats on set. Just
Yeah.
looking at them kind of gave me a little tingle in my spine. You both have scenes with them. What was it like?
Yeah, I mean, it was like nothing I've ever really experienced. It was one of those really like I had to sort of mind over matter stuff, sort of divorce myself from what was happening. And then, as you say, like Rob's such a perfectionist, and the shots take quite a long time to get right because it's often like one camera movement, and it has to go from Lily and her movement down to me, and so there's a lot of takes. So the rats had to like be taken, I had to be cleaned, and then it had to be brought back in, and it was
Cleaned?
which they're so incontinent.
Wow.
So they're like pissing and shitting all over me.
How do you like keep your mind calm in that? Are you like
You know
singing
what?
your Spotify Wrapped?
It really made me think I'm a celebrity.
Yeah,
And
I can imagine.
all of the times where you see them like with their hands in the thing with all the spiders, and
Yeah.
how do they do it? And I
Do a
thought of
Gillian
that.
McKeith and
Yeah,
just...
yeah, exactly.
But it's actually not your first like foray into Nosferatu.
Director F.W. Murnau had an obsession to create the world's most realistic vampire movie. he dug up an actor
I'd like some makeup.
Well, you don't get any.
who didn't just play the part.
But you're not feeding. No, you're not drinking her blood.
He lived it.
Which is so interesting. I was just wondering, how did that experience on The Shadow of the Vampire, did it help, hinder, influence?
You know, it made me very familiar with the Nosferatu original because I copied it basically in preparation for this 2000 movie called Shadow of the Vampire by Elias Marriage. You know, they're so different that I don't really connect the two, but it gave me an awareness and a relationship to the Nosferatu story. Yeah. But other than that, I mean, one of the things about being an actor is, at least for me, you know, you clean yourself out after one and you start something else, and you don't flirt with the connections to other things. In fact, even sometimes when I'm making a movie, it depends on the movie, I don't really like watching other movies because I don't want it in my head, which sounds a little precious, but I like to be there. I like to make a new world, you know?
Interesting. Yeah, I can imagine just kind of wipe the slate clean. Just lastly, before I go, this comes out on the same day as Baby Girl in the US, which I've seen both of them, and that would be a great back-to-back. If you guys are going to go back-to-back, which order are you going in?
I would watch this first and then Baby Girl. I think it's like a fun, clean.
I want to see Baby Girl. What the hell? Babies first, Nosferatu later.
Very
I love
logical
it. I would highly recommend it in either way.
Or Nosferatu first.
Because death and then
they have the baby girl.
Not for baby Radu. I don't know. I like it. Thank you guys so much. It's such a pleasure to meet you. Such a pleasure to meet you both, and huge congratulations on this film. I'm very excited for it to get out into the world, and I know it's been kind of a bit of a journey to get it there, finding like distributor and the cease and desist letters. If we could talk about that, how does it feel to finally have it out in the world now?
Look, you know, we've been talking about like what is the best time for it to get in, to get out, and you know, what happens if it gets us like too close to the election, too far above. I'm just happy it's out.
Yeah.
I'm just happy it's out, and I think the movie would speak for itself. And I know that we're up against all sorts of misconceptions and you know, sort of the Trumpomania and Trump fatigue and all that. But I do think, and this is what I'm basing it on the feedback we've gotten already, people who actually go and watch the movie, they're like, oh wow, this was not what I thought. I'm really surprised. And you know, look, not everyone loves it necessarily, but people are all surprised that this was not like a verdict on Trump. This was not a referendum on Trump. You don't need to love or hate him, or you can both love and hate him and it still be a movie for you. And I think that we're getting to the point slowly but surely. We're getting to the point where it actually is a movie and people are going to go and watch it, you know, and would sort of like detach from the political dramas unfolding.
You can stop holding your breath if it's going to see the light.
Yeah, I'm like...
but I mean, the election is in like 2 weeks. Do you think that it will have any influence?
Yeah, I mean, like we're negotiating with both sides to see, like, you know, we have more damaging stuff on. You know, we also made a little Harris movie. You know, that.
Did you?
No, I mean, I do. You know, I don't know. Like, I like her, but I don't think she's as exciting and colorful as a just like seeing it dramatically speaking. You know, and this was. I was talking to this news anchor, and he was asking, why aren't you doing a movie about Hunter Biden? And I'm like, because I don't give a shit about Hunter Biden, you know, because like the most exciting thing the guy did was to take some crack and drive, you know, whereas we are talking about a person who politically, intellectually, socially, you know, has sort of invaded everyone's, you know, headspace.
Absolutely.
In the past, I don't know, at least a decade. And I think that, you know, I don't know what's going to happen with the election. And you know, I don't know if we have going to have any effect on it. But I think it's exciting to sort of give our take on how this person became the man he is, and then you can sort of, if you want to use that information, if you think that's useful, use it,
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we kept repeating that this is not a political movie, and I completely stand behind this. It's not a political movie. It's about somebody that nowadays is a politician, but back in the 70s, 80s, he wasn't a politician. Absolutely. Yet at the same time, the film is timely because, I was thinking about that like a minute ago. It's an exploration of the system. So when you have a deep dive into this place, even though it's been in the 70s, it might be helpful to be seen before that time.
For the context, yeah.
Yep.
Just a kind of a gear change away from the politics as such, but I saw a really interesting quote from you, Maria, about some stereotypes that you've experienced being in Hollywood as an Eastern European actress, and how you were really grateful for this role of Ivana. It was different. I'd love to hear about your experience, what that means to you, and also kind of what you hope the film industry does for Eastern European actresses.
Well, I'm just hoping for representation at the end of the day. Me and my producing partner, Julian, we met because he released this Facebook status, quote unquote, we're searching for a lead actress for a big Hollywood movie. Send us over your details, record something, and hypothetically you're going to end up in a different country. Which I completely didn't believe that that's real, because things like that doesn't really happen to people like me.
Sounds a little bit fake.
Like a con, maybe, yeah.
But it ended up actually being the movie that changed my life. And I did Borat. I came here, then we went to the States, then the pandemic happened, then I met this genius man next to me. And, I've been hoping and imagining that, dreaming that someday the border will open and we will be having the opportunities to at least compete for the same characters, at least characters that feel right for us. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't really happen often. It doesn't really happen even if it's a Slavic character, even if it's an Eastern European character, even if it's a character that doesn't necessarily need a description where they came from, who their family is, etc., etc., etc. So having the chance to read for The Apprentice and meet with Ali has been really great, and I hope more and more we shine light on people from my region of the world, people that are just as talented and they are just lacking opportunities. Again, the only thing that we're asking for and we want for is to have the ability to put ourselves on a tape and then go from there.
Yeah.
I also think there's this unbased fear. I mean, even when I remember when we were editing the movie, and there were some, people, some of my American friends, from industry, who watch a movie and they're like, aren't you afraid that, do you think people can understand what she's saying? I'm like, yeah, I mean, she has an accent, but so does,
most people,
yeah, so does, so do I, so does, I don't know, a vast majority of the population, they don't speak Queen's English or, sort of New York, whatever you would call the American, and I think there's this fear that, you're sort of alienating the audience if you're having a character that doesn't speak in an accent that you sort of recognize as neutral, which I find really strange, because that's not, we're past that. The audience is past that. That's the thing. The audience is past that, they passed that 10, 20, 30 years ago,
Yeah.
But it's still a perception in industry, and I think I'm hoping that this is at least an example of you don't need to worry about anything.
Absolutely. They need to catch up. We're all ready for them. So I've been told to wrap up, but thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to speak with you.